love Nola coming down to us.
Well, what about Grandfather McCall? Like, what sort of man was he?
Very strict man.
Very strict.
Very strict man. He'll come down to the house to us and all that. And if it's Saturday, I think, I don't know, sixpence I think he got.
He would get something.
He get sixpence.
That'd be good. Not to get off.
Aye, then.
So it was good. You probably didn't even get that much.
No.
Because I think I used to get sixpence, and that was a good while after you.
Well, maybe I got a little
Less than that.
But your poor Dermot, that's all he ever got a go-go was sixpence.
Yes. My father, he used to look for some pocket money every Saturday.
God.
Sixpence.
So sixpence must have been the going rate.
The going
Yes,
rate,
yes, it
yes.
was. It was.
What
And
was
then,
sixpence?
and then, would you? But then they moved from there to the houses were built in St Clair's Avenue, and then there were new houses, and they must have moved round into St Clair's Avenue. You know, they lived in Nola and my grandfather, and they would have lived on High Street.
Yeah. They lived in,
And
and
then-
there was a bigger house at the top where they lived.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then they built the houses in
In
St
St.
Clair's Avenue.
Yes, and they moved round there.
And then they moved round, but you people then moved to Chapel Street.
They moved to Johnson.
You
that's
moved to
right.
Chapel Street at
We
that
had to have a
stage.
move because the house was too small and there
Yes.
was nothing,
Yeah.
you know.
I suppose you thought that house was a great house when you moved into
Oh,
Chapel
she
Street.
was
didn't
like
you?
heaven to us.
Remember my mother saying that?
And I was like heaven.
Yeah. It was so big and airy.
Because there was only the 2 rooms and what do you call it?
in High Street.
In High Street,
Aye.
you know.
Uh-huh. You wonder how people managed those days too. Was there water in it or was the water
No,
outside?
you had to carry, there's a pump across the road.
And you carried the
you
water in?
Carried the water over a pump.
Right. And then you had to, a coal fire, I suppose, and a grate, was there?
Cold fire, yeah.
Just a grate.
Just a great
It's
What
amazing
else
too.
happened?
And what sort of cooking, what sort of facilities did they have? Are they ovens or cookers around what at that stage? I had to wonder way back, like, did they actually have a
Well,
cooker? Or
Well,
did
I
you,
don't know, maybe it was one of
a
them.
range? Was there a range
A range.
maybe?
Yes, a range.
It would have been a range in the house, yeah.
That's right, a
Uh,
range.
So the cooking was done on the range.
And then there was houses down the well lane at that time.
That's right, there was a couple
There
of
was 3 or
houses
4
down-
houses
yes,
down there.
they're down at the bottom of the well lane.
I wonder who lived down there. That was sort of down onto where the convent ground was, wasn't
That's
it?
go down onto the
But it
road
was
walk.
on the left-hand side, the
Yes.
houses were.
Yes,
And the abbey, or what
The
they call the
convent
convent, was on that
on
side.
the other side, yes, the right hand
You
side.
know,
And Mrs. Grogan lived up there too, didn't
she
she?
lived up there in one of them
Yes.
houses too, yeah.
Yeah, I think she was very friendly too with my
There
mother,
was
wasn't
Mrs.
she?
Grogan, and there was, what do we call it, Mrs. Grogan, and then there was the Clarks.
And the Clarks lived up there
The Clarks
too.
lived up there.
What was her name that you were friendly with?
Cassie.
Cassie.
Cassie Clark.
Cassie Clark, that's right.
And Teeny Clark, and
Yes,
Teeny was married to Willie Hughes.
yes. They lived there.
They lived up there in one of them houses.
And as I say, Ethel lived there, the
And,
Keenans.
Ethel lived down in the big house.
Aye. And who was Maul Keenan? Now I heard
Oh, I don't
Nola
know.
talking about Maul
I
Maul
didn't-
Keenan.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, I heard her talk. She talked about her granny. Now was Granny Loy? She was telling about.
Well, I wouldn't have
Granny
known.
Lloyd lived. Granny Loy lived with them for a while in High
Aye.
Street. You wouldn't have remembered that.
No, no.
No, you wouldn't remember that. The Granny Loy lived with them. And she talked about her. She used to go out at night. Sometimes she would, her. At that stage, she was going senile. And sometimes she would get up and wander off up the street, and she said something about Maul Keane and stopped her up the street. So Maul Keane was evidently a neighbour, one of the Keenans that lived up there.
Sure as God.
But they were the old days. And then who did you have? You had, well, of course, Patrick never married, Uncle Patrick,
Oh, no.
and Maggie never married.
No. Maggie was very good. She's on housekeeping.
Maggie did the housekeeping. Did Maggie ever go to work?
I don't think so.
She never went to
I
work,
don't think she didn't, no. I think she run the house after the Granny died, Granny
After.
McCall died.
Yes. Maggie stays around.
Maggie
I
stayed.
suppose they were all young, you see, whenever
Uh-huh.
Granny McCall died.
She must have been
Aye.
very young.
And
And he looked after the whole family, like,
yes, he looked after them all then.
after all.
you see, any time, but when you knew him, he wasn't housebound.
No,
When I
no.
knew him, he was housebound.
I know, he wasn't.
He'd never gone out.
He used to go for his walks and that.
Yes, and go to work, and he worked with.
He was a painter.
What did you call those ones?
Wards.
Wards.
Wards, that's right.
He
Wards.
worked with,
Industry.
with
Aye,
wards.
wards, yes.
Didn't Patrick work there too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was Joe Ward.
that's right, the Ward. Lived there in L Street.
Yeah. I think they did a lot of painting in the convent and
I
all
suppose
that.
they did.
They did a lot of painting.
It's funny, like when you look back, you know, and think of things.
Yes.
Sometimes you just can't remember,
Yeah.
and then it hits you.
And then it all comes back.
It comes back.
And then it all comes back, yeah. And then there's that. There was Pina's family.
Who?
Pina
Pina McCall.
and May.
And
That would be
Pina
George.
and me.
Their father was George.
George, yeah.
And he would have been a half brother
of my grandfather.
of my grandfather McCall.
Yeah.
He would have been a half
George
brother.
McCall.
And then but then George had a sister as well. Who
Let's
was it?
see, was that, what wasn't like Neil? Maggie was,
No, there was somebody else there.
yeah.
There was somebody else in Belfast used to come up with.
Oh, Eileen, she was only living with,
There was Eileen.
Eileen
Was there
lived.
Daisy? Was there
oh,
somebody called
Daisy,
Daisy?
yes.
Who was
There was
Daisy
Daisy.
now?
Well, Daisy must have been, she had been a sister.
Of George. Would she have been the
so.
sister of George?
Maybe she would.
Have been a half sister. You can't remember.
No.
I remember the name Daisy.
It was Daisy, I remember.
It was Daisy McCall.
Aye.
It was Daisy McCall.
Like Neil Maggie, that's what we give her.
Yeah.
George, he worked in McGovern's and all.
That's right, he's wee man. George, me and
Yeah.
McCall's father.
And there was Pina,
And
and there was
Pina.
May,
His brothers.
and
was
there was Daisy,
Daisy,
and there was Willie,
And Pascal.
and Pascal.
Pascal, yes.
Well, who was the one was in? Oh, Des was the one in Australia,
Yeah.
and Bill was the one here, and Pascal.
Aye.
That I remember. That's right. I remember that. Indeed.
It's funny.
Oh no, it's just
There's quite a bit of history.
looking back
Quite a
over.
bit of
It's
history.
a shame that we don't get all of this, all the facts down,
Yeah.
like as we're going on
Aye.
through, and get everything down paper, you know. This is the way. But that's a good bit now.
Got
It's a
great
good bit to
big
remember.
bits,
It's a good bit.
It's very hard, isn't it, to remember?
And then there was a time you used to do a bit of singing too, didn't you sing at one stage?
Now, she did. You used to sing Marguerite. I remember you singing.
Me,
And you used to sing,
Give me a couple of drinks and it was away.
Yeah.
Well, now I'll give you a couple,
Oh,
now
I
you
could
start
sing.
from it.
I could
And
not
what's this?
sing
You
now.
used
I
to sing
to-
Marguerite and something
Ah,
else.
yes, and
After a few ports in you.
that's all I would drink was port wine.
Mm.
The worst of the lot, suppose.
That's right. You used to go out
Used to go out.
the
We
weekends.
used to go to Black Rock
Yeah.
with a Sunday morning.
That's right.
Come home in our ear,
Yeah.
everybody in bed.
You come home in your
In
ear.
here. And I remember one night coming home.
Mary.
Mary, honest to God, we never done anything wrong, but we enjoy
Did
ourselves.
enjoy yourselves. Yeah.
I remember coming home one night and starting to make a cup of tea. Everybody was in bed. And between the cup and the tea, over the place mat, I got it made. And I don't know how I got up the stairs, as sure as God.
This was in,
And then it was in
Chapel
Chapel
Street.
Street.
and they have a brave stairs to get up.
And the wall.
Sober.
The word indeed.
As we used to, you see, we worked very hard, Paddy, and we go out for a night then.